The relationships don't shatter in one dramatic explosion. They erode in silence. They rot slowly, like a crack in a wall that no one bothers to fix. At first, it looks harmless, invisible even. But day after day, choice after choice, the crack spreads until the whole foundation collapses. You think love will protect you. You think passion will save you. But love without discipline is chaos. Passion without respect is poison. Every time you excuse a lie, you trade trust for illusion. Every time you let disrespect slide, you give away another piece of your dignity. And every time you stay silent when you should speak, you teach the other person that your boundaries don't matter. The truth? Nearly 80% of relationships don't fail because people stopped loving each other. They fail because people stopped protecting each other's respect. They fail because accountability disappeared. They fail because strength was replaced with comfort, and truth was replaced with silence. So here's the question. Are you building a relationship that can survive pressure, or are you ignoring the cracks that will eventually bring it down? Because failure doesn't happen in one night. It happens in every small moment you choose not to fight for truth, respect, and strength. And if you're not fighting for it daily, you're already losing it. When two people stop talking, they don't just lose words. They lose connection. Communication is the lifeline of every relationship. Without it, resentment doesn't just appear overnight. It builds silently, like a pressure cooker waiting to explode. At first, it's small things, unanswered texts, one-word replies, pretending you didn't hear what was said. But make no mistake, silence is not peace. Silence is a weapon. Poor communication is where love goes to starve. When you stop asking real questions, you stop knowing who your partner actually is in that moment. People evolve daily. If you don't keep up with their fears, goals, stresses, and desires, you wake up next to a stranger. That's when people say they changed. No, they didn't change overnight. You stopped listening. And it's not just about talking more. It's about talking honestly. Real communication means being willing to step into uncomfortable conversations, addressing the behaviors that hurt you, asking questions you might not like the answers to, speaking up even when your voice shakes. But here's what happens in most relationships. One person avoids conflict. They think, if I don't bring it up, it'll go away. Wrong. Avoidance doesn't solve problems. It buries them alive. And what's buried always comes back stronger. That's why couples who never argue aren't healthy. They're often just in silent warfare, where nothing is said but everything is felt. Communication is also about how you listen. Listening isn't waiting for your turn to talk. It isn't sitting there rehearsing your defense while the other person speaks. It's shutting down your ego long enough to actually hear what the other person is saying, even if it hurts. Most people don't listen to understand, they listen to win. That turns every conversation into a courtroom, where love is on trial. Poor communication is the breeding ground of assumptions. Instead of asking, what did you mean by that? People fill in the blanks themselves. And assumptions are the gasoline of insecurity. One unasked question can turn into 100 unspoken stories in your head. Stories that are often worse than reality. Now let's get tactical. If you want to stop silent warfare, you need structure. Schedule real conversations. Not 5 minutes in passing, not while scrolling your phone. Dedicated, uninterrupted time where you check in with each other. Ask the hard questions. What's weighing on you right now? What did I do this week that made you feel valued? What's one thing I can do better? Don't weaponize silence. Walking away can be healthy if you're cooling down, but disappearing for hours, stonewalling, or punishing your partner with silence is emotional violence. If you need space, communicate that. I need 30 minutes to calm down, then we'll talk. Stop sugarcoating. If something hurts you, say it. Directly, clear is kind. Vague is cruel. The more you water down your truth, the less likely it is to be heard. Learn to hear without defense. When your partner says something painful, fight the urge to explain, justify, or counterattack. Sometimes the right response is simply, I hear you. Let me sit with that. Because here's the brutal reality. Poor communication doesn't just kill love. It turns love into resentment, respect into contempt, and two people into opponents. If you don't fix communication, you won't just drift apart. You'll start secretly rooting against each other. The strongest couples aren't the ones who never argue, they're the ones who argue well, who fight to understand, not to win. They know that every conversation is either building trust or breaking it. Every word is either a bridge or a bullet. So ask yourself, in your relationship, are you building bridges or are you firing bullets wrapped in silence? Because poor communication is not just a weakness. It is the slowest, deadliest form of warfare, and most people don't even realize they're fighting until the relationship is already lost. Let me tell you the truth. A relationship without boundaries is not love. It's chaos. People think boundaries are walls, but they're not. Boundaries are doors with locks. They tell your partner where entry is welcome and where respect is non-negotiable. Without them, you're not protecting love. You're handing it over to be destroyed piece by piece. Here's the pattern I've seen over and over again. One partner gives too much. They bend, they tolerate, they excuse. At first, it looks like love. It looks like loyalty. But over time, it becomes a slow bleed. When you keep letting someone cross your line without consequence, you're teaching them that your dignity is negotiable, and once respect is gone, love doesn't stand a chance. Weak boundaries sound like this. It's fine, I'll let it slide this time. I didn't like it, but I don't want to make a scene. If I push back, they might leave. Do you see what's happening? Fear is running the relationship, not strength. And fear-based love is not love. It's survival. When you allow constant disrespect, whether it's a partner raising their voice, dismissing your feelings, invading your privacy, or testing your loyalty, you're not being kind, you're being complicit. You are co-signing your own mistreatment. Boundaries are the line between love and abuse, respect and disrespect, loyalty and betrayal. If you can't enforce them, you're not in a partnership. You're in a hostage situation. Now let's go deeper. Boundaries are not just about what you won't allow. They're about what you will demand. A strong boundary doesn't just say, don't disrespect me. It says, if you want access to me, you must bring respect, honesty, and effort to the table, every time. That means your partner doesn't get to ghost you for days and then come back like nothing happened. They don't get to scream, slam doors, or manipulate with silent treatment. They don't get to cross lines and expect a free pass because you love them. Love is not an excuse for weakness. Let's get tactical. Define your lines clearly. If you don't know your own boundaries, you can't expect your partner to. Write them down. Where is your hard stop? What will you never tolerate? Lying, name-calling, disrespect in public, secrecy with money. If you can't answer this, you're already vulnerable. State them without apology. Boundaries are not requests. They're standards. Saying I need honesty in this relationship is not controlling, it's foundational. The people who call you too much for having boundaries are the very people who want to take advantage of you without accountability. Enforce consequences. A boundary without consequences is just a wish. If you say, don't lie to me, and they lie, then what? You have to mean what you say. Maybe that consequence is walking out of the conversation, maybe it's demanding accountability before moving forward, and yes, maybe it's leaving the relationship if the disrespect continues. Don't confuse boundaries with ultimatums. An ultimatum is about control. Do this or else. A boundary is about self-respect. If you do this, I won't stay. One is manipulation, the other is protection. Check your own boundaries too. It's not just about what you demand from them, it's about what you allow in yourself. If you're constantly breaking your own promises, neglecting your standards, or excusing your bad habits, don't expect your partner to treat you any better than you treat yourself. Because here's the harsh truth. Weak boundaries don't just cost you respect. They cost you identity. When you don't draw the line, you start losing yourself in the relationship. One day, you wake up realizing you don't even recognize the person in the mirror. You gave away so much of yourself trying to keep someone else. You forgot you were the prize. Boundaries are not selfish. They are the ultimate act of self-respect. They protect your peace, your dignity, and your ability to love without resentment. The people who truly care about you will respect them. The ones who don't, they'll leave. And that's a gift. Because every time you enforce a boundary, you're not pushing someone away, you're pulling respect closer. So ask yourself, where in your relationship are you letting lines blur? Where are you sacrificing your dignity just to keep the peace? Because here's the reality. No boundaries equals no respect. And no respect equals no relationship. Trust is the backbone of every relationship. Without it, you have nothing but two actors pretending to love each other while secretly guarding their own corners. Trust is not just about believing your partner won't cheat. It's about believing they won't betray your respect, your vulnerability, your secrets, or your future. Once it's broken, everything changes. Here's the brutal truth. Most relationships don't collapse from lack of love. They collapse from broken trust. Cheating, lying, hiding money, digital secrets, emotional affairs, gaslighting. Every betrayal is a crack in the foundation. And once that crack appears, love alone can't fix it. Because love without trust is torture. It's living with one eye open, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. When trust is broken, one of two things happens. Either the couple puts in the brutal, uncomfortable work to repair it, or they live in a slow emotional death where one partner is constantly on edge and the other is constantly defensive. And here's the reality. Most couples choose the second path. They stay together, but they don't rebuild. They coexist in a prison of suspicion, blame, and silent resentment. Let me be clear, rebuilding trust is not about empty apologies. It's not, I said sorry, now let's move on. Sorry is a word. Trust is a pattern. And patterns take time. Rebuilding trust means consistency, transparency, and accountability. It means giving your partner no reason to doubt you again. Not once, not ever. But here's why so many relationships fail after betrayal. The offender wants forgiveness faster than they're willing to change. They think saying the right words should erase the damage. Meanwhile, the betrayed partner is drowning in doubt, scanning every detail, looking for lies in every silence. That imbalance creates a cycle of mistrust that eats away at the relationship until there's nothing left. Let's break this down tactically. Trust is fragile, not unlimited. People love to say, if you really love me, you'll forgive me. No, forgiveness and trust are not the same thing. Forgiveness is releasing anger. Trust is rebuilding reliability. You can forgive someone and still never trust them again. And that's fair. Transparency must be radical. If you broke trust, you don't get privacy until it's rebuilt. That means full access to the phone, accounts, location if necessary, not because your partner is controlling, but because you destroyed safety. Transparency is the price of repair. If you're not willing to pay it, don't pretend you want to rebuild. The one who betrayed doesn't set the timeline. Healing belongs to the one who was hurt, not the one who caused the damage. If it takes months or years for them to trust again, so be it. If you can't wait, then leave. But you don't get to pressure someone into healing faster just because you're uncomfortable with your own guilt. Rebuilding requires action, not promises. Promises are easy. Actions are evidence. If you cheated, you need to cut off contact with that person. If you lied about money, you need to open the books. If you've been hiding things online, you need to hand over the passwords. Rebuilding trust means eliminating every possible shadow where betrayal can hide. The betrayed must decide, not just endure. Staying after betrayal doesn't make you strong if you're staying without repair. If you stay, it should be because you see real, consistent change, not because you're afraid of being alone. Choosing to stay without requiring repair is not loyalty, it's self-abandonment. Now let's get real. Some relationships can survive broken trust, but most don't. Because rebuilding requires more strength than people are willing to give. It requires humility from the offender and courage from the betrayed. It requires honesty so raw it cuts. And it requires time, longer than most people are willing to wait. And here's the hard pill to swallow. Sometimes broken trust is permanent. Some cracks can't be repaired, and that's not weakness. That's reality. Walking away is not failure. It's refusing to live in a relationship where paranoia and suspicion replace love and peace. Because at the end of the day, trust is not optional, it's not a bonus feature, it's the foundation. Without it, every kiss feels like a lie, every silence feels like betrayal, and every future plan feels like fiction. So ask yourself, if trust has been broken in your relationship, are you actually rebuilding it or are you just pretending? Because pretending is not healing, it's just waiting for the inevitable collapse. A relationship is not a charity, it's a partnership. And when one person is carrying all the weight while the other coasts, that's not love. That's exploitation dressed up as romance. Nothing destroys a relationship faster than imbalance. Because when effort isn't shared, resentment takes over. And resentment is a silent killer. Here's what it looks like. One partner is doing all the planning, all the problem solving, all the emotional heavy lifting. They're scheduling the dates, handling the bills, initiating the conversations, and making sure the relationship doesn't fall apart. Meanwhile, the other partner is just there, present but not invested, physically in the room but mentally checked out. At first, the giver convinces themselves it's okay. I'll just do more, maybe they'll appreciate it. But over time, that generosity turns bitter. Because no one can carry a relationship alone. Love starts to feel like labor. And once love feels like labor, resentment takes root. Unequal effort isn't always obvious. Sometimes it hides under excuses. I'm too busy with work. I'm just not good at expressing myself. That's just how I am. But here's the truth. Effort is a choice. If someone wants to, they will. No excuse is valid when it comes to showing up for the person you claim to love. Effort doesn't have to be grand. It's the daily consistency, checking in, contributing, apologizing, adjusting, being reliable. When only one person does that, the relationship becomes a lopsided structure destined to collapse. Let's get tactical. How do you spot and deal with unequal effort? Audit the relationship honestly. Ask yourself, who initiates more? Who sacrifices more? Who takes responsibility when things go wrong? If you're always the one bending, fixing, or chasing, you're not in a partnership. You're in a parent-child dynamic, and that's toxic. Call out the imbalance early. Don't wait until you're boiling with resentment. If you feel the weight shifting, speak up. I feel like I'm carrying this alone. I need to see more effort from you. Be specific. Point out actions, not personalities. It's not, you're lazy. It's, I notice I'm the only one planning and it's draining me. Watch for consistency, not promises. People will say, I'll do better. Great. But improvement is measured in action, not words. Do they show up differently next week, next month, next year? Or do they slip back into old patterns the moment you let your guard down? Refuse to overcompensate. When someone slacks, the natural instinct is to pick up the slack to keep things stable. Don't. That teaches them that your effort will always cover their lack. If they don't step up, let the gap show. Sometimes people don't realize how much you do until you stop doing it. Understand what you deserve. A relationship is supposed to be mutual investment. That doesn't mean equal in every moment, but it does mean balanced over time. If you're always the one pouring and never being poured into, you're not loved, you're being drained. Now let's be clear, balance doesn't mean keeping score like it's a competition. Relationships are not 50/50 every single day. Sometimes it's 80/20, depending on who's struggling, sick, or stressed. But when the imbalance becomes the norm instead of the exception, resentment hardens into contempt. And once contempt enters the room, the relationship is already on life support. Because here's the thing about resentment. It doesn't scream at first. It whispers. It shows up as sighs, rolled eyes, a lack of enthusiasm, subtle withdrawal. Then one day it explodes. And the partner who never put in effort acts shocked. I didn't know you were unhappy. They knew, they just ignored it because your effort kept the illusion alive. So here's the tactical bottom line. If your partner is not meeting you with effort, you have two choices. Either you enforce standards and demand accountability, or you keep carrying the dead weight until it crushes you. But don't confuse endurance with loyalty. Staying in a one-sided relationship doesn't make you strong. It makes you complicit in your own exhaustion. At the end of the day, love without shared effort is not sustainable. It becomes one person's prison and the other person's comfort zone. If you want a relationship that lasts, both people must fight for it daily. Because when effort dies, resentment is born. And resentment always buries love. Red flags don't destroy relationships, ignoring them does. The signs are always there, the lies, the disrespect, the manipulation, the control. But people convince themselves, it's not that bad, love will fix it, they'll change, I just need to be more patient. That's not love. That's denial. And denial is the most dangerous drug in a relationship. Here's the truth. Every toxic relationship was once a promising one. Nobody starts with the worst version of themselves. They start with charm, effort, attention. But if you're paying attention, the mask slips early. A sarcastic insult disguised as a joke, a white lie that doesn't sit right, a moment of jealousy brushed off as cute. These aren't harmless quirks, they're previews. And what you excuse in the beginning becomes your prison in the end. Let's break it down. Red flags often fall into patterns. Control disguised as care. I don't want you to hang out with them, I just care about you. No, that's control. Love doesn't isolate, manipulation does. Disrespect disguised as humor. Relax, it's just a joke. No, jokes are funny to both people. If it cuts you, it's not a joke. It's contempt in costume. Secrets disguised as privacy. Why are you checking? That's my personal business. No, privacy is healthy. Secrecy is poison. Explosions disguised as passion. I only get this angry because I love you so much. No, rage is not love. It's volatility, and it will escalate. The problem isn't that red flags exist. Every human being has flaws. The problem is when you normalize them. Because every time you excuse a red flag, you teach the other person how much they can get away with. Boundaries shrink. Respect fades. Before you know it, you're trapped in a cycle of mistreatment that started with one ignored sign. So why do people ignore red flags? Fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear that maybe this is the best they'll get. But here's the harsh reality. Staying with someone who disrespects you doesn't protect you from loneliness. It guarantees it. Because there is nothing lonelier than being with someone who doesn't value you. Now, let's get tactical. Stop romanticizing potential. Potential doesn't exist until it's consistent action. If they're showing you controlling, disrespectful, dishonest behavior now, you have to assume that's who they are, not who you hope they'll become. Trust patterns, not apologies. Anyone can say sorry once, twice, 10 times. Words are cheap. Look for repetition. If the behavior keeps happening, the apology is just another manipulation. Don't explain away disrespect. If your gut says something is off, listen. Your intuition is not paranoia, it's data. Your body has collected before your mind catches up. If you're constantly making excuses for someone, you're gaslighting yourself. Document the red flags. This may sound extreme, but writing them down forces you to face reality. When you see the same pattern on paper, it's harder to deny. Have a hard exit strategy. Before things get deep, know your deal breakers. If they cheat, lie, scream, control, or manipulate, are you staying or leaving? If you don't decide now, emotions will cloud your judgment later. The bottom line, love does not erase red flags. Love doesn't cure control. Love doesn't fix dishonesty. Love doesn't repair manipulation. Only accountability and consistent change can. And if you stay without demanding that change, you're not just ignoring red flags, you're running straight into them. Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. People rarely turn bad years into a relationship. They showed you who they were from the start, you just didn't want to see it, and the longer you ignore the signs, the harder the escape becomes. So ask yourself, what red flags are you excusing right now? What lies are you telling yourself to justify staying? Because one day, you won't be able to say you didn't know. You'll have to admit you knew and you chose to ignore it. And when that day comes, the cost will not just be your relationship, it will be your self-respect. Here's the reality most people don't want to face. Relationships don't collapse in one dramatic moment. They don't fail because of some sudden storm that nobody saw coming. They fail in the quiet. They fail in the silences you allow, in the boundaries you never enforce, in the trust you let rot, in the effort that goes one-sided, and in the red flags you swore you could fix with love. Love is not enough. Let me repeat that. Love is not enough. You can love someone with your whole heart and still end up broken if there is no communication, no respect, no trust, no shared effort, and no courage to call out what's wrong. Relationships are not built on feelings. They are built on discipline, truth, and accountability. Without those, love becomes a weapon, a chain that ties you to the very thing destroying you. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone stay in a relationship long past its expiration date, convincing themselves, but I love them? And where does that lead? To silence instead of communication, to weakness instead of boundaries, to suspicion instead of trust, to resentment instead of balance, to denial instead of reality. And slowly, without even realizing it, they trade their dignity for companionship and call it loyalty. But loyalty without respect is not noble, it's self-destruction. This is why nearly 80% of relationships fail. Not because people stopped loving each other, but because they stopped protecting the very things that make love sustainable. They stopped demanding honesty. They stopped enforcing boundaries. They stopped matching effort. They ignored the signs that were screaming at them. And by the time they admitted the truth, it was too late. So here's the question you have to face. Will you repeat their mistakes? Will you let your relationship die the same slow death? One ignored red flag, one excused lie, one tolerated disrespect at a time? Or will you have the courage to protect what matters? Because make no mistake, protecting your relationship doesn't just mean protecting the other person. It means protecting yourself, protecting your standards, protecting your dignity, protecting the truth, even when it hurts. Protecting your future from being built on cracks you refuse to acknowledge. And here's the tactical bottom line. If you are not communicating, you are already at war, even if it's silent. If you don't enforce boundaries, you will be disrespected. It's not if, it's when. If trust is broken and never rebuilt, love will suffocate under suspicion. If effort is one-sided, resentment will bury affection. If you ignore red flags, you are signing up for pain you could have avoided. So stop lying to yourself. Stop telling yourself that time will heal what discipline hasn't fixed. Stop pretending that love will erase dysfunction. Stop making excuses for behavior you know is unacceptable. Relationships don't demand perfection, but they do demand accountability. They demand courage. They demand a daily choice to show up with honesty, respect, and effort, or to walk away when those things are missing. The truth is, relationships don't fail in the big dramatic moments. They fail in the details you let slide, in the moments you swallow your truth instead of speaking it, in the choices you make every single day. And those choices are on you. The final question is this: will you let your relationship crumble like the 80% who ignored the truth, or will you stand among the few who protect it with strength, discipline, and courage? Because in the end, love doesn't save relationships. Respect does, truth does, effort does, boundaries do. Everything else is just noise.